Hello, Math 96. I'm putting this video out on Monday. You should have first watched the project day 6. This is the project last day number 7. I'm putting it out today so that everyone can get started on the last slide in your digital workbook for the math project. So your math project is due this Friday, May 21st. Projects will not be accepted after Friday, May 21st. The final exams for this class are on Monday, May 24th. So today, what is your project slide about? What should your project slide have at the minimum for a passing score? And your last project slide is worth a quiz score. Tonight's homework is to make sure that you open up your math project digital workbook and complete your final slide for your own personal math project. So let's get started with the expectations for your slide. So you should take a screenshot of this list to check off that you did everything for your slide. So the following is what needs to be on your final slide project to receive full credit. The numbers you were assigned placed into the yellow boxes on the slide. That is for your velocity and height. A graph of the parabola from Desmos. A display of the mathematics used to solve your word problem. You must include both the quadratic formula calculations and the maximum height calculations. Images of the object in your story placed creatively on your slide. Make sure your math is not covered up. A prominent display in full sentences of both answers to the questions in the word problem. Utilization of creative components in your project that decorate your slide, appropriate to the story in your word problem. A creative title and your name on the slide. All images must be school appropriate, follow the school dress code and code of conduct to receive creativity credit on the project slide. Now you can always go back to the recordings for the project that are on Google Classroom to review what we went over for each of the project slides. You may ask for help on the live meet or over GoGuardian during class time. You may come to morning tutoring on this Thursday and Friday at 8:35 for intervention and tutoring for extra help. And remember, no late projects will be accepted. Your final project slide is due this Friday, May 21st. Okay, so let's look at what your slide is about for your project. So here it is. Your student math project is graduation is almost here. Tossing mortar boards, your hat. Tossing mortar boards is a tradition. If a student throws their hat upward from a starting height of, you're going to fill in the blank for your starting height in feet, and an initial velocity of, and then you're going to fill in the number for feet per second. How long before the hat lands on the stadium floor? What is the maximum height the mortarboard cap achieves as it travels through the air over all the graduating seniors? So a mortarboard is the formal name for a graduating person's cap. It's called a mortarboard. Okay? So let me show you now what your slide is going to look like when you open up your digital workbook today. It's going to look like this. It has the story at the top, and you're going to leave that, and then you're going to leave the dark green box at the top. But you are going to delete the purple and pink and yellow and green boxes. So when you open up this math project today, you're going to see these extra boxes, and that's just in case someone missed the video. And it just says everything about how this last slide is worth a quiz score. And then I tell you to delete this box after you read it, that you've been assigned numbers to fill into the yellow boxes. If you don't know them, go back to Google Classroom and see how tall are you, or ask for help on the meet, or email me. And then it tells you to delete the box. It tells you that the final slide for your graduation cap project is due this Friday, May 21st. No project will be accepted late. And then it tells you again to delete the box. And then it lists everything on here about how you need to make sure you use the numbers that you were assigned, placed into those yellow boxes on the slide, and everything we just went over. So just make sure that you go ahead and delete these. Those are there just in case someone missed a video. Okay, So now I just want to talk about these numbers. So you sent me your height, and I sent you back your height and velocity on a Google Classroom question, and these numbers are unique to you. So if you missed this, you should have answered the Google question, how tall are you, and hit the submit button. Then I return to you the question with your velocity number. So you're going to insert your height you sent to me and the velocity number I sent back to you for your project. So if you don't have this, go back to Google Classroom and open up your how tall are you and find your numbers. You must type the two numbers into the yellow boxes on your slide. I recorded each of your unique numbers, and I will be checking each project for correct numbers. If you do not use your height and velocity that was sent to you, then you will receive a 0 on this project. You can ask me on the Meet or email me if you have any questions about these numbers. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about your slide. Please use creativity on your project. You can use a background image across your whole slide of a graduation scene. You can use different images of caps. You can insert call out comments. You can rearrange your work in a different order than mine. I'm going to show you some examples in just a minute. Please be creative. Just make sure you have all the math, the graph, the titles, the numbers, etc., that were listed at the beginning of this video on the green checkoff sheet. So just make sure you have all of this stuff, right? Make sure you use it as a checkoff sheet. Okay, so what are some ideas to get you started on what the final project slide should look like? And then also, what is the difference between a below average score on the project, an average score on the project, and an exceptional score on the project? Because remember, these points for this last slide for your graduation cap are worth a quiz score. So let me show you some examples that I put together for the baseball project that we've been working on this whole past week and a half. So here would be an example of a below average score. So why would this be a below average score? So you can see at the top that just says student final math project and name. Nothing's been filled in. You can see that the graph right here is exactly like what we did in class. We just have the green dots there. Nothing's really been changed. The math is here for the maximum height. And there is the words there for that and for when the baseball came down and hit the ground. But if you look at this area, these screenshots are out of order. And plus they didn't clean up this sideline here, so it's kind of messy. So these are out of order. When I went over this on the day 6 video, I showed you how to do that. This is the final answer. And that part should be way down here. I'll show you that on a proper slide, okay? So this would be a below average score. Very messy on the copy paste for the quadratic formula. Nothing really changed on the graph at all, just, the Desmos and inserting the dots, and no creativity. Let me show you an average score. So here you can see that the entire quadratic formula is inserted in its proper order from the equation to where we filled in the quadratic formula, down to the square root, and then the final answer of 1.91333. The problem is, though, did we really need this? Do we need the negative? Is that appropriate to your story? And I'll show you on the next slide what we did with that negative number. Now, why is this also an average score? How come we got more points? Well, obviously, the vertex, the maximum height, there was an insert of a baseball. When the baseball landed on the ground, there was a little image inserted and another image inserted of someone throwing the baseball and upward, right? Now, for college, you probably wouldn't want to put these little cartoon characters in there. You do want to keep it somewhat adult-like. but there are some creativity points earned for inserting those baseball images. Now notice when these baseballs were inserted, we can still see, and let me just grab a highlighter, we can still see the 2, we can still see the 5, because remember he was 5 feet when the ball was released from his hand. So when you insert those images, make sure that you do not cover up those numbers, okay? Just trying to think if I wanted to mention anything else. So let's talk about how we might do this negative differently on the next slide for the exceptional score. Oh, and also the average score for the average score here, one more thing, it does have the name, right? Because you're supposed to insert your name. But the project name has not changed any. It says back on here, if you read everything, a creative title and your name on the slide. So make sure you use this checklist before you submit your project, okay? All right, this would be an exceptional score. And so you can see at the top there's a title and then of course the name, right? So we have both of those items there. Also, the red graph was covered up with baseballs that have, baseball bats to show the parabola. Now, when I inserted those, I made sure that I did not cover up the numbers. So the 5, the 10, and the 15 are still here, the 1 and the 2 on the bottom. So be careful when you insert and you adjust a graph, because you still have to have the relevant information to your story being told. And then what about that negative number that was in here? So over here, remember we had that negative value. What happened to that? Well, I just covered it up with baseballs. And then the idea here also was that I'm underlining the time of 1.9133, and I'm underlining the maximum height at 17.25. So those are some of the ways that you can be creative. Make sure all of your relevant math is on there, and there you go. So that's an example of an exceptional score, okay? So remember, this final slide for your graduation cap project is due this Friday, May 21st. Projects will not be accepted late. All right, get started. Go open up your digital workbook for this slide. Thank you.